Welcome everyone to Pommy in Oz. If you're new around here, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe. It really helps the channel out. And we're smashing out subs. We're on our way to 4K. We're trying to hit 10K by the end of the year. So if you can help me do that, just do that. It takes 3 seconds. And a staggering 48% of you aren't subscribed. And I know there's going to be a few magpies here for this one because it is Carlton versus Collingwood. So we do all sorts here. A bit of streaming, bit of fun and chat and frivolity with a Carlton feel a lot of the time. But if you want to come and join me on the journey, you can become a member. Link is in the description to do that. We do a giveaway. So let's get straight into Carlton versus Collingwood. So round 10 is upon us, the old enemy Collingwood, at the scene of the grime, as it were, where Carlton unfortunately went down and missed the 8. And it's been painful since then for the Blues, it really has. You are up against a side at the moment that are top of the ladder, 8 wins, 1 loss, and have been really dominant, it has to be said. Their major weakness last year, stoppage and clearances, scores from it. They're now in the top. They're now top for that because of Tom Mitchell. He's brought some steel and grit. A side that plays a real manic chaos ball, but there's also an element to Collingwood's game that people forget about. It's very controlled. It's very within themselves. They have exceptional game management. When they go about their business, they're not slapdash, and they're a side that dishes it out as well in the terms of score involvements and goal assists. They are a team that's really nicely spread and can hurt you from just about anywhere this year based on the season so far. This is an incredibly important game for both sides, particularly Carlton. It's really all to lose for Collingwood. They've had such a terrific start that if they go down to this, it's going to hurt them, but it's also going to really hurt Carlton. Carlton are in the papers for all the wrong reasons, it has to be said at the moment, and they're coming up against a side, as we say, who will feel like they're in a little bit of form. They'll feel confident, and it's interesting that this is a side from the back half of the ground. It's not where they build. They like to build from the midfield. Carlton have been a side that is building from the midfield. 81 points scored in the D50. Sorry, 81 points scored in D50. They have cost themselves, though, because of that high fortune nature of trying to get the ball out of there and into it. But this is a game that really both sides match up well on. With the history that is at play with Carlton and Collingwood, it needs no real build-up. But this is the game where Carlton will really want to come out and set a precedent. This is the game where Carlton will be thinking, they win this, this could catalyst their season to bigger and greater things. And it's a fantastic history, this game. This game is the closest we've got to the old firm. La Liga's massive El Clasico. This is our version. The first time it's ever been played was 1897 in round 7. Staggering 262 games. And obviously Collingwood won the first one by 6 and won the most recent one. And that is something that Carlton will be looking at. They're ahead on the ledger by 2. Carlton will be looking to bring that down and trying to square the ledger by the end of the year. And it's really a team in form versus a team that's finding themselves a real tough ask. But we've looked at some players here where I feel like the battle will be won or lost. And we start off with classy Darcy. Darcy classy. Darcy Moore has been incredible form for the Magpies, particularly as a leader. He's really shone in his leadership capabilities, a terrific speaker, and one that really is... You feel like he's galvanised the group. They really get around him, and he really flies the flag for Fly's side. It's one of the many tales of this game when we talk about Fly, old teammates, now adversaries, and 85.7% one-on-one ratio. That is a massive win rate. He doesn't often get beaten. That's elite in the competition. 7.7 spoils, 5.9 marks, 3.2 intercept marks, and 2 score launches, which is elite. This is a guy here that's going to really... Carlton are going to look to really give him something to do. That is so important for Carlton, to give Darcy a problem. You don't want him being able to be free and float around. You want him to be accountable. And it's interesting who gets this, well, who they take. Because this is one here where Harry out of form could give him a problem. Just with his ability to mark, with his ability to be so strong in the air. And that could be something there that if Carlton can get him there and get Charlie free, or vice versa, a battle be won. They're not the tallest down the back, and that is something that Carlton will definitely be looking to exploit. The next guy, we've talked about their improvement inside, and 2 of the guys that have really co-aligned with different roles for them inside and stoppage and centre clearances is Tom Mitchell and John De Goey. And let's look at the first one. John De Goey, definitely playing more midfield time this year. And he's taken to it like a duck to water with these higher midfield minutes. 11.8 contested possessions, that's very good. 8 ground ball gets. Elite score involvements, 8. 3.3 centre clearances, elite. And 5 inside 50s. And you find that this guy, when Tom Mitchell's done his hard yakka, this is one of the guys that benefits from that. And he's been really industrious with his ball use. He looks to get the game going. He's a real magnet for the ball. A real competitor. And... this midfield battle is a delight, really. It's something that you look for, particularly someone who watches the game like I do. These are the 2 blokes you want going up against. You want these midfields going toe-to-toe. And what a terrific player John De Goey is. And he's real huge from what they do. You see him quite often. He takes that first ball out of that clearance. He takes the tackle. And that's a real key for what they play. He's very late in his disposal. He doesn't mind taking 1-2, causing 2 players to really try and stop him, and then getting it in the spread, getting it on the outside, getting it moving quickly. He's terrific at doing that, but he's also deadly himself. If he can get that high half forward where he rests, he can cause you problems very quickly. And once De Goey's up and about, he's very tough to stop. It'll be one that Carlton will be earmarked as a problem. And we talked about him, Titch, Tom Mitchell. What a sensational acquisition for Collingwood. A lot of media missed this one. This guy has had an instant impact, and he's really, the last couple of weeks, starting to build as well. You're really starting to see it. Very good across the board for ground ball gets, contested possessions, disposal efficiency, tackles, score involvements. And what people forget about Tom Mitchell is, there's that, he gets the ball 40 times. What does he do with it? You kind of understand when he's playing for a team like this, and you kind of saw it at the early Hawthorn days. He's giving this ball to outside runners, your Josh Dacuses, your Nick Dacuses, your De Goeys, players that can really hurt you. And this is what Tom Mitchell does. He just literally recycles the ball. It's like when you watch Collingwood, particularly around the centre clearance and the stoppage, I want you to imagine, I'm not taking the piss being a pom, but I want you to imagine England winning the World Cup in the rugby, just recycling these stoppages. That's what they do. They're looking for the opportunity, and if it's not there, they're quite happy to reset and go again. And they're very, very rigid around them areas. They don't have a recognised world-class ruckman. Darcy Cameron has been sensational. Mason Cox pinch hits. McStay and Frampton, they have a go as well. But their work around stoppage is absolutely insane. And they're coming up against a side that prides themselves in it. And we saw it the last couple of years. They've got better at it. They can go toe-to-toe with Carlton. It's about stopping that spread. And Tom Mitchell is a dynamo. If he gets the ball, Carlton, we're in trouble. We're in big trouble. But what is important for Carlton is you've got to basically get this guy and take away his options. You don't want that easy feed. And that's what Tom Mitchell is very clever at. He finds the easy feed repetitively. And if he doesn't, they throw Taylor Adams to create that space for him. The double Ds, we talked about spread. And As Carlton fans, we've seen over the last season or so that when we play against this side, their spread does harm us. And they're very good at it. And they've got two guys here. One starting from a bit further back in the halfback, but one recognised winger. That's Josh Dacos. So we look at the numbers that are incredible. Well, incredible for wingers, important for wingers. Disposal efficiency, AFL average. You genuinely do see a lot of the wingers with that AFL average. 6.2 score involvement's very good. Average for inside 50s and marks. Meters gained, very, very good. And what you see about Josh Dacos is his ability to hang and wait for them opportunities. He's very clever with his running, but he really understands the game. Especially, he's really got that synergy with Taylor Adams, as we talked about. Tom Mitchell, DeGoey, Pendlebury. He knows where to be. He knows where to layer his run. He's also one of these guys that gives that give and get. He takes the game on. Definitely a guy that Carlton are going to have to worry about. And there's been a lot of talk about this kid. Nick Dacos is insane. Let's be honest, he's insane. And Carlton are going to come across him. And you can fall in the trap here, like Sydney did, laying the hard tag. The problem is when you lay this hard tag, is his running's like his brother. Probably better. His intelligence. He knows where to go to stray. Everything that Collingwood do is zonal chaos. Their running patterns are really peculiar when you watch them play. They're a really peculiar side, and they understand how the zone works. You quite often see them run and make their leads in between three players. They're trying to do that. And Nick Dacos is the master of doing that at the moment at halfback. Now, there's a lot of talk about the contested possessions and stuff. Hard to get a contested possession when you're smarter than everyone else around you or too quick. Or you're found when you're in space. And that's what Collingwood do. They find this guy. They find this guy because they know it. And you look, elite score involvements, elite inside 50s. Very good rebound 50s. A staggering 554 metres gained. Combine that with his savvy. What Carlton have got to do here is basically you take away his options. That is something that Brisbane did very well. He had a lot of the ball, but they took away his options. They were very savvy of when he had the ball, they made him kick long. They made him bite off too much than he can chew. And that's what you've got to do. But the way that Collingwood play is that they're very systematic and they run hard in numbers. So there is always an outlet for him. But Nick Dacos is invariably that outlet. So someone like Matt Cottrell, little run with role, has probably got the engine to keep up with him. But this guy here, he gets the ball a lot. And that's what people say when they say, oh, is he impactful? Well, the numbers say he's incredibly impactful. But what's even worse is he's kicking that to someone like your Elliott or your side bottom who can hurt you. So watch out for the Dacos brothers. They will have a say in this. And if Carlton can stop them, they go halfway to finishing the job. Jamie Elliott. I hate saying the guy's name. It's like, Voldemort. But Jamie Elliott, and I want you to look at one of the stats here, marks on the lead. Now, we all know that. We know he likes to make that daisy run, particularly outside 50. That has to be watched, particularly with the two guys we just talked about. Very good score involvements, 5.8, very good shots. Tackles, the pressure's there. That's something that him and Bo McCreary, they really pride themselves on. They make it hard to get it out. And for a team like Carlton that like to pissant around with it out in the back half, this can be a problem because they're going to pressure you. But that's also its advantage to Carlton. They aren't going to have time to think. They're going to have to play on instinct. They're going to have to give the ball quickly. And that's going to be a real interesting factor here. But Jamie Elliott, we know he can punish us. Side bottom, Sidey B. This guy here, we just hate playing him, don't we? Because he's got that nagging ability to make things happen. And even though he's getting older, he's got the run, now the legs of Dacos, who are doing the hard yakka, really. This guy here still pops up with the score involvements, particularly that Collingwood kick. They're very good at that second kick out of D50. D50 is probably where you can get them. That's a strong suit for Carlton. Carlton are one of the top sides at forcing forward 50 turnovers. But the big thing for Carlton here is looking at what they do and looking at that second kick. Once they get that second kick, that third kick that comes to side bottom, that's where they hurt you. Because once side bottom 65 out, he ain't missing a target. They lead incredibly hard. 4.6 marks. He works hard defensively as well. But also, like I say, that second to third layer. Look at the AFL field. Bring it into 25s. That 75%, that final quarter, second quarter, 50 to halfway, this is where side bottom does his best work. And that's going to have to be picked up. Carlton are okay. They've got Blake Acres. They've got Ollie Hollands. Very guys that do pride themselves on that defensive set and that running. That kick has to be taken away. That has to be. It can't be easy. He can't be left to run free, which is what he's very clever at. While the problems are in the contest, he skulks off. And that's killed Carlton last time we played them, if you remember. His ability to get free is unlike anyone else. Toe Timber duo. We expect Darcy Cameron to come back, but Mason Cox himself has just recently come back, and he's the auxiliary ruckman. 49.6 hit-outs for one, that's very good. 31.7 of them to advantage. Below the deck, that's his weakness. 4.5 score involvements and 5.3 marks. He works hard both ends of the ground. Can be a bit of a pain in the arse when he's forward as well. Definitely someone you've got to watch, because he kind of still to this day, I don't know if it's arrogance of opposition, but he kind of gets forgotten about, and you find him quite often suddenly on that your fourth tallest defender. He's very, very good at getting there. That's something that Carlton have got to look at with Mitch McGovern, making sure that I would be looking at Mitch McGovern being that spare and going, when they do bring the extra tall in, that's where you are, because invariably that's where it's going to go. But Mason Cox, he's going to probably be going up against Lewis Young in the ruck. A big battle there to be had. Darcy Cameron, 45.3 win percent, average, 35.4 to advantage. That's very good. Better on the ground balls. They are a lot stronger side, particularly around the contest when he's there. But he hasn't played for a couple of weeks. Score involvements, though, he gets involved. He gets involved, particularly in that final third. They like to fling him forward. When they have played together, they fling both forward, which makes them incredibly tall and incredibly hard to match up on, invariably making you take one of your transition skills, like a Pitternet or a Harry, to fall back to make sure that you're looking after them. Could be an interesting little thing here with Darcy Cameron, because he's another one who goes undetected. But who's stopping him? The animals! George Hewitt, Matty Kennedy and Cripps, and it is imperative that these three have a good game. This is where Carlton can hurt them around stoppage and clearance. And let's look at George Hewitt. Not a bad year numerically. We just know his output hasn't been great, but the position, the numbers that matter are pretty good. Very good for his contested possessions and his ground ball gets. His tackles are very good. Clearance and stoppage and score involvements, these are average. This is where we've got to go and look at what Tom Mitchell does. These guys have got to be hitting that spread. These guys have got to be hitting runners. And George Hewitt is one that has really been lackadaisical this year with that. He's got his fair share of ball, but his go-to this year has been handballing to people in trouble. Last year, he was getting very good at just doing that little cartwheel out the back and trying to hit up a runner. And he's got better players ahead of him now this year than he did last. That's really imperative. That's the cornerstone of Voss's game plan, short and sharp. And at times, Hewitt has looked for the handball way too much back into traffic and not looked at the darting run that Saad does. And I want you to watch that this week. Saad likes to take off from high half back to help him out. And that handball there is going to be so important, especially when Doc's playing. Doc does that organically when he's on the ball. He flicks out the back. That is going to be really important. And George Hewitt wants to get it out to stop them recycling it. Because that's what they do. They make it hard. They make it kick long. If Carlton want to go through there, they've got to make it scrappy if they do lose it. But they've also got to make sure that they get and play into their one-woods. That's going to be imperative for George Hewitt, because he is, on his day, one of the best of the business. Matty Kennedy, his numbers are a little bit flawed because Carlton for banter have played him half-back a couple of times. But these numbers are still pretty okay for a guy that's played about 4 games in his wrong position. Very good, okay, average contested possessions, tackles and clearances. Ground ball gets for a guy that's now back ranked as midfield. They're okay based on where he is, because you've got to admit, with him being a half-back. And the score involvements, and again, these score involvements are so important for me. Carlton's midfield isn't working hard enough on that offensive set. They're doing very well in the defensive set and winning the ball. They've got to look to be a bit more industrious with their play, which they were for passages of the third quarter. And Kennedy is probably one of the better of the three we're going to talk about here in doing that. Kennedy here has got to stick to his guns. Get the ball, take the first man on, like we talked about DeGoey, get them extra tacklers, then handball it off to a runner, to your Walshes and your Cherries, he will come on to in a minute. And the Captain fantastic. He had a down game last week, his first time, 0 tackles in his career. Very elite for contested possessions, the ground ball gets, very good tackles, elite clearances, and score involvement's very good. This is it. Cripper's a lot more direct than the other two. We know George Hewitt's more the provider. I feel like he could be providing a little bit more run for the two guys we're going to talk about. But Cripper here, this is, believe it or not, his organic matchup in this game is usually Taylor Adams. But the guy who's going to be aiming to do the same job as him will be Tom Mitchell. And that could be a classic battle. And that's one that Cripps will, they will want to avoid that isolation. Carlton have got the bodies here to make that happen. What Tom Mitchell is quick at, Cripper's got strength. It's a great battle between brute strength and ignorance, this one. And I'm looking forward to this. This could be Cripper's game. Early call, this is Cripper's game. Because the matchup-wise here, Carlton now have their matchups where we saw it the last couple of times we've played, that their bigger bodies haven't had the impact as usual. They've just scrapped it and made it very scrappy there and taken away the easy outlet. This is where Cripper can go to work. And this is what Cripper's got to do. Cripper is due a good game. And I think this is it. The layers. We talk about the layers and we've talked about the ball winners. These guys have got to get the ball. And this is why. Adam Cerra, I expect to see him play at least 80% on the ball this week. And we talked about Hewitt and Cripps winning. This guy and the other guy we're going to talk about, Sam Walsh, are really imperative that we get them free and get them using the ball. You can see why Carlton sling him down the back when they're struggling like last week. Elite kicking efficiency. It's imperative that the guys that are using the ball in the back line are getting it to the next layer, the midfield, with good kicking. But it's really needed here. 5.9 score involvement's very good. Inside 50s are good. Pressure acts are very good. And the meters gained. Really important in this system that when it becomes static, that they start to play for territory and chase it down. And that's where the big disjoint's been this year for us, our midfield and the forward line. They don't quite get to that follow the ball enough. But Cerra's got a really important role here because he's going to be almost our Pendlebury. He is. He's going to be getting that ball and he's going to be looking to pick off the passes. We want Hewitt to be handballing to this guy as much as possible. And it's going to be an absolute ripping contest. A very quick way to endear yourself, if you haven't already, to the Carlton faithful, is have a ripper here. And this game here is set up for Cerra because Cerra's going to get a lot of ball in close. And that is where Cerra's finest work goes. And we talked about different roles of Collingwood. Carlton have got a really myriad here. You've got the kick-happy Cerra. You've got the run and handball give-and-go player here in Sam Walsh. Now, Sam Walsh, his kicking efficiency is okay. Elite score involvements though. Elite pressure acts. Very good inside 50s. And you can see here that he's more of a running player. More of a give-and-go type player. He's going to give it and get it back. And that's what they've got to do. Sam Walsh and Cerra need to get that synergy in this game. And Sam Walsh can hurt them. If he can be getting the ball outside of the pack, which is what Carlton try and do, and get him free, Sam Walsh has got a big job here of making sure that he gets it out wide or brings it back into the corridor, whatever he feels. And Sam Walsh is going to be important for Carlton. Spread, spread, and more spread. And this is important, this. Akers, Hollands, and Cottrell. And we talked about the dangers on the wing. These guys are going to have a real big job defensively, but also offensively. Very good kicking efficiency. Good score involvements inside 50s and very good marking from Cottrell. He works hard both ends with his elite engine. Did spend a bit of time half forward as well, which is definitely a problem area. Hence the lower meters gained. But this is really important. And I think that this guy will probably start a little bit further forward than the others. And really put on a bit of pressure on Dacos. Because this guy here prides himself on his defensive passages of play just as much as his offense. But, in my opinion, a lot more offensive than Hollands and Akers. And that's going to be really important, this. He needs to work hard between them arcs. Get them going. Get them going with a little bit of foot speed. Next guy is Blake Akers. And he had a poor game this week, let's be honest. But kicking efficiency for the year has been very good. Score involvement's good, are okay. So are his inside 50s. Elite marks. He works really hard defensively. He's quite often the outlet ball. And that is a very primary thing for Carlton. And his meters gained are incredible. And that is really important for Carlton, that these wingers here look to spread, get it away from congestion, and then are not scared to bring it back into the corridor once that midfield group overlaps. That is really important. And Blake Acres is really going to have a senior act this week and pride himself, because there's going to be a lot of work coming down that wing, particularly that right-hand side where Josh is. And Holland's elite engine. He's going to be running all day. He's got to make sure that every kick a winger has is under pressure. And he's AFL average across the board apart from score involvement. I'd like to see him get a bit further forward, but I understand the role at the moment. He's genuinely in front of Sardi, who is that more offensive type player. But Hollands has got an important game. Run hard, make sure everything is earned on that wing. And that's something that he does pride himself on. Should be a terrific battle between that, because he's playing Josh Dacos, who I see a lot of similarities in Ollie Holland's game with a young Josh Dacos. A lot of similarities. So that's something that we've got to look forward to in the next couple of years, because Ollie is a superstar in the making. But real big battle this week, and it's a time to fast-track your development against a very accomplished out-wide outfit. The Goliaths versus the Dabes, and this should be important. And Charlie Kerner, he doesn't need no introduction. Elite across the board. And Charlie here will be looking to make them leads from the pocket like he does to a more central position, and really looking to cause a bit of issues. There's a way that he can run here, because he'll be going in between Isaac Quaynor, which will then help another guy we're going to talk about a bit later. But the way that he naturally leads, he leads to that high half back as well, which can cause issues. We saw it last week. It caused them issues because they would drop back and suddenly you'd get a 2-on-1, and invariably Carlton would then dilly behind him, which would take the key position defender out. Didn't happen enough, but when it did go well in the third quarter, that's what they did, and that's what they try and do. And there's a great opportunity here for Charlie, because outside of Darcy Moore, even though whoever they play, one of them's going to get some guy that they should batter on their day. That's no disrespect. That's just cold, hard facts. So it's going to be a really interesting battle, and it's going to be about how Carlton enter in here. Because if they get up and about early, which we saw in pre-season, it will really help them. And the other guy is Harry, and he's a bit under the weather this year, has to be said. But there's an old saying in golf, don't worry about the scoreboard if you're putting it in the right positions, right? And he's getting in the right positions. It's only a matter of time. And a bit like Cripps, he's had a bit of a quieter 2 games. Class always rises to the top. Always does. And Harry's working hard and getting in the right positions. And this is a game here that I would be inclined to just play him out of the goal square. Be telling the midfield to make it combative and tough. Playing him out of the goal square and trying to give whoever it will be, Frampton, Murphy, or if it's more, an issue. Make them earn it. Keep him out in the goal square and make him your deepest target, because Harry has got the pace and the strength to deal with them. And this could be a game because, look, marks on the lead, elite. Contested marks, elite. Score involvement, still okay, considering he can't hit Carlz from a banjo. That'll change. And I think Harry will fancy this. I really do. And look out for him. He'll have a good game. Now, we talked about the back line, hitting the men. These are going to be 2 guys that I'm looking at this week. I've left out Sard because I think Sard just does it naturally. But these are 2 guys that are going to have to be on top of their game. Sam Doherty, probably because of the midfield time, that's just an AFL average for rebound 50s. The kicking efficiency, a bit of a concern, but you look at where Doc's strong, it's them leads towards him. Very good score launches, very elite score involvements, and very good meters gained. Doc's got to be that catalyst there. He's got to set the standard with Sardi and McGovern, and he's got to be demanding them leads in front of him, particularly in short, around 55 to 60 where Carlton slip off. And Mitch McGovern, he's got to take them intercept marks and give and go. This is where Carlton can get them. This is definitely where Carlton can get them. Collingwood this year have conceded 57 points against from teams building out a D50. They're one of the more prudent sides because they play a real heavy forward press. But this is where Carlton can hurt them because it's quite an aggressive press the short kicking style will play to Carlton's strengths, but also play into a bit of danger. But it's important Mitch McGovern looks for it, because the corridor will open up. You won't see what you did against Eagles, where they flood the corridor. Collingwood don't do that, so there's going to be them opportunities to take them passes. So keep a real good eye on the midfield, making them leading runs and really trying to help them out, because Mitch McGovern isn't scared of taking that kick, and as his kicking efficiency shows, he can do it. Getting first use. This is so important this week that Carlton get first use and get something to use it. Now, Collingwood are very attuned of winning the ball off someone else, but what PeterV's got to do is, we've talked about how they pressure the midfield in them stoppages. He's got to fling his body, fling his muscle, and be a nuisance. And that is something that Matt PeterV is one of the best at. He is literally one of the best at, probably in the AFL, that Mark PeterV can do really well. Now, ignore the fact it says Matthew. I'm not too sure. It's a common thing. But Mark PeterV, he's got that skill. He's got that skill old Brad has to really throw them around and body them. So Peter has got a big game this week, and I expect him to have a ripper. Linking the chain, we're going to finish with a guy that we probably haven't talked about on this show for a while. But this guy can do it. And we've got a big game here for a guy that's got to be that conduit, the link in the chain. And we're presuming that Jack Martin doesn't get selected in this. If it's Jack Martin, see what I say about this guy and do the same. But he's got to work hard in that 50 and get that. He's got to be that third kick. It's going to be that third kick that allows Carlton to go deeper and closer to goal. 4.8 marks, very good. Marks on the lead average. We need to see them a little bit higher. I'd love to see Jack delay his run a little bit and then get it in. I know he's not the quickest, but use your cleverness. Use some dummies. Get some dummy runs going. The score involvements, I want to see that higher. This guy led our inside 50s to goals in 2018 and 2017 when we were poor. He was really good at getting it to the forwards, and this is something that we want to see. And we also need him to be that extra in the forward line. Shots below average for a player who's playing his position. And we really need to see Jack take them opportunities. He's going to get opportunities here because they'll probably double up on our forwards. It's really important that one of the smalls stays. And it'll be Matty always because he's responsible. And Jesus, stay in that forward line and make it tough. Make it tough. Let's look at the team selection then and what I've gone with. And I haven't really reinvented the wheel. My one out this week is Ed Kerner out. Jack Martin's in. Gone with a bit of continuity in this one. We've got Mitch McGovern, Wheater in, and Newman, Sard, Young, Doc. Centre line, we've got Akers, Cripps, and Cottrell. Half forward, Walsh, Harry, and Jesus. Full forward, we've gone Durden, Kerner, and Motlop. Followers, Pitner, Hewitt, and Chera. And then Kennedy, Owies, Chincotta, Hollands on the Pine. Nice, small, and some aggressive players there. And the sub being Jack Martin. And I thought this was the perfect game here. That if Carlton are chasing or want to cement it, putting that extra marking height there and trying to lock it into the forward line. But that's the preview. It should be a great game. I am so excited about this one. This is it. Like we say, 263rd time these two sides have met. Not much separating them. A huge history between them both. And a game here that has everything on the line. Everything on the line for the Blue Boys. So go out there, boys. Get the job done. And bring 4 points back to Prince's Park. Enjoy your afternoon, everyone. Pom out.
I see her rolling up, Uber black Cadillac, high heel boots and a sexy body full of tats. Baby's bad, oh baby's hella bad.